Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Powers, if you hadn't gathered that already. Forgive the poor quality video and audio. I'm in the middle of moving and everything is packed away. But I wanted to get on here because I had to do this edit because they're due. I recently just finished a shoot in South Dakota, and this is the big money shot, if you will, that the whole shoot was based around essentially. So I wanted to show you what that looked like, not only editing it, but also while we were on location, some of the considerations that we had to do, and also what we did even before that. When we first booked the shoot, part of that was we set up a scout, and I want to show you some of the scouting photos for that and talk through that, and then we'll get into the edit. And yeah, hopefully this is informative, and if you're interested in this type of content and you want to see more, not just editing videos, but videos that show my pricing, breaking that stuff down, marketing type videos, on location, behind the scene type videos, things that I really don't want to show the public, I'm including those here on my Patreon page. I'm also including doing monthly calls. I'm not sure how often they're going to be, but we're going to be doing private calls with people who are part of this Patreon community. We'll probably be doing an open one soon, just so you guys can see an example of that as well. There's also the open book podcast that I'm putting out, and that's pretty much a same concept as this, just on a audio only level. And I'm kind of it's an audio journal style podcast where I'm essentially just recording on the go, sharing thoughts, completely open book. Hence the name Open Book Podcast. So now before we get into the edit and the scouting portion of this, I want to insert a video here that brings you back to when we were on location and showing you some of the considerations. So watch this, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the editing. All right. So this is a shot. We had to use a bunch of furniture to block off some of the things. So I'll show you a few of those things. We've got this floor plate right here. We needed to block that off, so we're using this little table for that. And you can see that in right here in the center. And then we've got some boxes and electrical items right here that we needed to block as well. So we're using this chair. We strategically placed this as well as the table. Oops, just kicked that out of the way. In order to cover those things. And then we waited until, I think, what time did we set up? Like 7? We set this up at like 7:30 a.m. It's 9:45 right now, and we'll probably be shooting this in a good, 20 minutes or so. The sun was originally over that direction. We need it to come over here so that the shadows are kind of forking in kind of towards us a little bit. Some of the other things we're running into that we're waiting on. There is a meeting going up in this conference room, and these chairs are crooked and they're showing up in the photo. So we'll probably have to rearrange those later. And then we have to place some people in here. So we'll probably have some people walking up the stairs, somebody up there, up here on this ledge. We'll probably have to put a couple people in the hallway over there, possibly somebody here and over here. The problem is we only have like 3 people. So we've got to figure out how to do that. I have the 17mm tilt shift, and we're pretty much all the way back up against the wall. And that's pretty much it. All right, so hopefully that was a little informative. I wasn't exactly sure that I was going to be doing this, and I wanted to record just a little bit of behind the scenes video just to show you in this video in the event that I did something. And I thought it was important to show off how we were using furniture to block off certain things to make the post-production a little easier. In hindsight, I probably could have showed you a few more things. It's okay though, I just wanted to show you. I just always found it interesting to see what things look like in the real environment. So that said, I'll tell you a little bit about this shoot. Now, this shoot was for EAPC Architects. It was at South Dakota State University in Brookings, South Dakota. They had recently just completed a precision agriculture center And there was one main shot that was kind of the centerpiece of the entire shoot itself. And we weren't able to complete that shot when we first arrived because there was no furniture. There was furniture delayed due to the supply chain issues. And 8 months later, we were finally able to complete it. So I'm not going to walk you through the entire edit of the entire shoot, but I'm going to focus on just the main shot today. But I also want to walk you through my process on these shoots when it comes to the scout, the shot selection, and pre-visualization, because I think that's important. So first and foremost, for this shoot, we set up a scout. This is something maybe for a whole other episode, but I built into my fee for this shoot an extra visit for a scout because I thought this was important. This is a very noteworthy project for them, and wanted to be sure that we had all the photos narrowed down that we really wanted to focus on. So first things first, when I walk around with my Sony A7 III, and I shoot all of these handheld, and then I bring them back into Lightroom, do a basic exposure and vertical perspective correction, and then I will export them as a contact sheet in Lightroom and make some notes and send it off to them. So let's go ahead and get into this, and I'll kind of show you what we dealt with here. So I'm going to kind of scroll through really quick. You can kind of see this is the entire contact sheet featuring some of the photos that we may or may not focus on, as well as the compositions. The ones where you see a red check mark, these are the ones that I suggest that we focus on, that I think show off the location the most. You'll also notice that I leave notes on a lot of these photos because I want to help them pre-visualize what I'm picturing and what we may end up dealing with. So for example, this will be the first shot of the day. The light looks good on this frame, but I may simply set up a camera from 8 to 10 a.m. and run a time lapse so that we have some variety and can focus on the lobby shoot. So when I say lobby, I mean gallery. And this room right here is the main focus of this shoot. Well, one of the main focuses, I should say. So as you can see the red check marks. These are all the angles that I suggest we maybe focus on. And then from there, they can determine the actual shot list. Again, the shots show off the windows. I like the idea there being students and traffic outside. And then they leave some notes as well. The activity outside is nice, but probably won't happen on a Saturday. So we're kind of going back and forth with this proof sheet, this contact sheet, to determine what the actual shot list is going to be. And as you can see, I included 2 shots of this room just to illustrate what the shadows look like as the day goes on. So you can see the shadows are long and stretch across the whole thing, whereas an hour later, it says the shot was taken an hour after the previous shot, just showing the difference between what happens with the shadows as they go away. This just really helps solidify when we need to be in that room to shoot that shot. Some other vantage points from that area, etc. Now I'm not going to go through this entire contact sheet, but you get the idea. I may make a separate video on doing location scouts and whatnot. So that's for a different video. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. Now, as I mentioned, we're not going to edit the entire shoot, just this one main shot that I was just showing you that we wanted to focus on. Now this is literally my first time looking at these photos aside from importing them. I didn't even go through all of them, but I know that I took an obnoxious amount of photos just setting up this first shot. So we've got quite a bit to sift through. So yes, I have not yet looked at these. I'm just gonna quickly scroll through them just to kind of see what we're dealing with here. I think these were just some test shots, and we were getting some things arranged on the Cam Ranger and getting an idea of what things were going to look like. And I think this is when we finally started bringing people in. So what I like to do is a lot of the times I will finish off my shot before I take the tripod down with a final like 3 bracket exposure, as you can see here. So I usually start off with a 3 bracket exposure, as I did right here, and you can kind of see the shadows, how long they are. And then if I skip ahead to this one, you can see the drastic difference. But the reason I wanted to do this was in case the camera got bumped at all, or if anything happened that maybe I noticed something different and I want to sample it from a later time. So I started the shoot with 3 brackets, ended with 3 brackets, and then in between that, we did people placement. So I'm just going to kind of flip through and just see what we're dealing with in terms of people in the shots, and I'm going to mark the ones we can probably use. So go ahead and mark this. I'm just going to mark them with 1. We'll use this guy as well. We'll use this one here. Let's make sure their faces look good. And I see my tripod in the shot over there, so we know we're going to have to remove that. Let's see if there's a better shot of these guys up close. I think this one looks better. Maybe I can find one with them smiling. Laughing. Okay, so we only got, let's see. We'll use that one of him. And maybe that one of her. Okay. We also have people walking in the hall down here. Probably use her. And this was just a random person walking, so I'll probably have to either blur her out or maybe just make her face a little blurry. Got these guys walking here. Got somebody in the shadows back there. I might use that one, maybe. We'll see. And we've got me up here. Let's see, do we want to use, I think I like this one. And then we've got the this is the actual architect. I think I like that one better. Well, this one's fine. Okay, so anyway, we've got, I think that's all of them. That shot's probably better. I think I like this one better for the person in the hallway. This one might work even better, actually. And as you can see, we had we were very limited on people, so we used the 3 of us. This is Shelby. She is the staff photographer. She was assisting on this shoot, and the architect was there. And then we grabbed a couple of people that we saw walking in the halls. So I think we've got our we've got one person outside here. Yeah, we'll keep that. So I think we've got all we need. And, oh, this is, I was just explaining to him what I wanted somebody right here and what that would look like. All right, so I think I've got what we need. So I'm going to bring this bracketed set in. So I've got quite a bit that I'm going to be working with here. I'm just going to do a base exposure on this. So this is going to be primarily for this back here. I want to dehaze it a bit. I've got a sun flare right here that I'll probably have to bring in another shot from later. But I think for the most part, we've got our shot selection. I'm just going to quickly go through them. So we've got our initial shot. This will be the bracket. And I'll probably just use this. I'll probably use the shadows from this shot, and I'll probably use just the just to correct any, bring some of that sky in a little bit right here. So I think that looks good. This, I don't know what this shot is. Oh, that's the person outside. Let's go ahead and auto adjust that. So we've got, we're going to use this person right here. So we'll brighten this up a bit. Dehaze it. And we're just trying to get some even exposures for when we blend it all in. We don't need this. Actually, maybe we will, because I just noticed that. Maybe we'll use this. I don't know, though. It might be a little too cluttered. I'm just going to bring this one in just in case. No, I won't. I'm going to unmark it. We'll keep her. Again, the idea here is I just want things to be evenly exposed. I know these guys are going to be very bright, so we're going to dehaze just a little bit. And just for the sake of not doing as much work, I'm going to... So I like her in that shot, so maybe I'll just keep that. Let's just sync these up. We're using him in this shot. And honestly, I probably could get away with all of us just using this shot right here. All right. Now you also notice there's a little bit of distortion happening on the end here, just a little bit of stretching, so we'll probably have to do something about that later on. And then we've got this shot here. Okay, so we've got all of our shots here. We're going to go ahead and bring them all into layers in Photoshop. Now while that loads, I just want to kind of illustrate something. Now watch the shadows on the floor. You can see them moving throughout the day. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge and something that I did not consider ahead of time. This is why ideally we would have made sure to have the necessary amount of people so we could get it all in one shot, or at least the minimum of 2 shots. But I'm going to have to do a lot of compositing and some challenging edits just to make this look like it was taken at one point in time during the day. So I just wanted to point that out before we get started, and just kind of another reason to plan accordingly. There's also a little bit of accountability that needs to be there. All right, that said, we're in here. Let's go ahead and align the layers. All right, so we've got everything aligned. First things first, we're going to get our base image edited. So that will be, I think it's this one here. Yes, this will be our base. So I'm going to bring these 3 layers all the way to, in fact, let me just increase this because I'm not going to end up needing all that. So we'll bring these down to the bottom. And I'm just going to turn off all these because we don't need them just yet. All right, so first things first, like I said, we're going to get this edited. So this will be our base. We will, I'll be using Raya Pro today, which is really great for luminosity masking. I'm not going to go through a whole Raya Pro tutorial. So if you want to know how this works, I can make something separate, but not right now. So all we're doing is we're basically, again, luminosity masking. So I'm bringing in, this program essentially creates a mask for you based on tonality or color or whatever other parameters you define. So in this case, I'm doing tonality. So what I essentially did was I created a mask that just selects all the dark parts so that I could brush in those shadows so it'll just be a little bit brighter. And add a new one. And I'm just going to manually brush this in for the time being because I only need them to be a little bit darker. And that's good. So it's, you know, it didn't really call for luminosity masking in this case. I just literally need to subtly brush some of that back in because I don't want the window views to be completely dark. I just want them to be a little bit more defined than what we were dealing with there. So this is pretty much final as far as the base is concerned. I obviously have some other things to do, like I need to fix this lens flare. In fact, let me just bring that in now because right here I know I blocked off see, I'm just gonna create an HDR out of this because I only need a small little. So I want to get rid of that flare. I could just clone it out, and I think that would be fine. But I want to try just bringing in this first and see if this would work. So I'm merging these together just to create an HDR, so I don't have to go through the whole process. We're going to brighten this up a little bit and try to match what we have in Photoshop here. Should be close enough. And we're just going to bring this into Photoshop. I don't think this is going to accomplish what I was hoping to, but not a big deal. And then I'm just going to make a big brush here and just brush this out. Oops, forgot to soften it up. Yeah, the color isn't quite right, so. But I actually like the color a little better, so I think I'll just use this. Yeah, I actually like that, how it's a little more yellow, a little warmer. Yeah, hey, happy accident. So we'll go ahead and use that. I'm just going to leave this alone for the time being because I don't want to mess it up too much. So we have our shadows looking the way we want. We've got this area back here filled in. I'm not going to fill in up here. Well, I guess I could. I was kind of hoping to not, just because I'm probably going to have to Photoshop those chairs a little bit. Yeah, I'm just going to keep those dark. That room is not really that important. In hindsight, I probably would have had these windows turned on just for consistency, but it's not the end of the world. This is going to be a little bit of a challenge, like as I literally just flipped on one of the people, and you can kind of see the light's just different. So we're going to have that to deal with. Let's just go ahead and get started before we get too far away. So again, this is pretty much done as is. Now I'm going to go through and mask in the people. So we're just going to do this one at a time. I'm going to use the lasso tool, and I'm going to circle her and just add a mask. Simple as that. Turn this layer on, and we're going to circle him. Add a mask. I'm going to circle the architect here. Now this isn't always going to work out. Add a mask. As you can see, there's like we need to adjust the tone there. So all we really do is we just kind of brush out the edges. Make sure we've got a soft. Make sure we have a soft brush. We do. And I'm just going to brush out the edges there. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just want to make sure he's not taken out at all. He's not. We got a little bit of a flare right there. No big deal. We'll deal with that later. So that's good. We've got 3 people in so far. We'll go to the 4th one, which is me, it looks like. Now, there's definitely some differences in color up here. You can see this is a little bit more yellow. So we'll have to deal with that later. But in the meantime, I'm just going to widen the view of me. I think we'll actually just brush all of this in here. We've got him up there. That was an accident, but I think I might just keep him up there. To brush this color out so that it's just on the underside of that. All right, so this is where it starts to get a little challenging. So now we just need to brush out what we don't want. The problem is we're dealing with reflections as well. Okay, so as you can see, in the final photo, there is no shadow under her. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So we need to remove all of the shadow from around her. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Coming back, I'm seeing this guy needs a little bit of have to fix the lighting around him. So right now I'm just trying to add a little bit of light to So as you can see right here, we're running into a little bit of trickiness because we've got the reflection from this chair. So we're going to be goofing around here for a while. All right, I finally have all of the people staged where I want them. As you can see, it was quite the process. Now I just want to kind of show you the pattern, and I have to clean it up a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to show you how I think about these things. I just want to kind of show you the pattern. One of the things I learned back in the wedding and portrait days is you want to create peaks and valleys with the people in your photos. So if you want to kind of follow along here, let's see if I can do this. So if you look from left to right, you can kind of see how we created some peaks and valleys with the different subjects we have in here. I think the only thing that would have been beneficial to maybe complete this was to have something up here to look at, but this would have been a little bit too distracting, so it's probably complete just like this. There is a lot of space over here with nothing interesting to look at, but you can kind of see how having those people staggered throughout created some peaks and valleys within the frame. And that just kind of helps your eyes move throughout the frame. Whereas I don't have any good examples, but if we would have had, if we didn't have me up here or somebody right here, there would have been too heavy of a balance, on this side of the frame. So I know that's not a very scientific explanation as to what I'm talking about, but hopefully you get the idea what I'm talking about with this peaks and valleys thing. So as you're posing your people, keep that in mind and it should put you in a good spot. Now, as I mentioned, I have to go through and clean things up. So first thing I'm going to do is go through and label where these people are because I'm starting to lose track. All right, now I have everything labeled so that I kind of know where everything is. I just have to go through and clean things up a bit. I also want to make sure these bottom layers are turned on. This one was turned off, so it was giving us kind of a fake sense of what we were dealing with. So one thing we do need to do is put the reflection back in there for the chair. As you can see, the reflection is kind of missing a bit. So let's copy this reflection. Just going to move it over. And we're going to brush that in. All right, so I think we're good. Again, we just need to go through and refine all the different people. Now I know we made this background a little bit more yellow. That's not a problem because we're gonna remove color casts after the fact. I actually do kind of like it warm like this though. So it really doesn't bother me, but the big difference is that up here, it's very warm and down on these walls, it's very white, whereas this all should be the same color. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go to the very top here and we're going to add this hue with saturation layer. I'm going to completely, well, almost desaturate it down to about 25% or so. I'm going to invert it, and then I'm going to come up to Raya Pro, and I'm going to select color. And I'm going to sample the color that I want to select. So Raya Pro, this will create a mask for me based on that color alone. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to brush out that yellow color. I need a softer brush, and I'm probably going to put it down to like 60%. I don't want it to get too washed out. But as you can see, it's helping with that color cast. So it just looks a lot cleaner. Now, obviously doing that takes out the color from the people, so let's go ahead and brush a little bit of that back in. Now, one thing that's been bothering me a little bit is this hallway. It's a little too bright. I need to brush some of this stuff out and just keep him and his reflection. And I'm probably also going to need to add a little bit of contrast to it so that it's not so grainy. I'm not going to do a whole layer of noise reduction just for that. So we'll go ahead and add an adjustment layer. We'll do just a curves adjustment. And we're going to make sure that this only applies to the hallway layer right there. So I think we've pretty much got the photo where we want it. There's not a ton more that I can do aside from, clean things up. Now I'm noticing again, a few more things, just like a little bit of that circle remaining right there from when I masked that out. And really at this point, I just kind of stare at the photo and figure out, okay, what bothers me about this and what do I want to do. Now, at this point also, since I've pretty much got all the people cleaned up, what I will do is go through and create a group out of just the people. Because I want to be able to just turn that on and off. So overall, I think it looks pretty good. I think all the reflections look realistic. I'm not really seeing anything that stands out too much that needs to be fixed. I'm pretty much just going to keep toggling back and forth until something stands out to me as I scan along the thing. Now, one thing I am noticing is that up here looks a little dark. So what I'll probably do is maybe paint that in a little bit. Oops. Bring my brush to about 20. I do notice also that with this people layer on, let's add a mask to this and I'm going to brush some things out. So for instance, this light here goes dim with the people layer on. So we don't want that. Or with the people layer off rather. I think what I'm going to do is brush these out a little bit just for consistency. Okay, I think this looks good. So now the question is are there any distractions that we need to remove? So one of the things that I'm noticing is that up here, we've got these can lights. I think it's just the angle, but we've got some can lights on, some can lights off. So let's do, first and foremost, let's do this. We need to create a layer that's flattened without people. All right, so let's do our work first. Let's go through and take care of all the distractions. I think because only 2 of them are showing as on, we will Photoshop those out. So I think we're just gonna clone. Let's keep it simple. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get close enough. That's good. We just don't want those to be showing. This exit sign I know is going to need to go, so we'll take care of that. I think we might need to do a perspective thing. I know the architect said these things don't bother him, but the exit sign did bother him, so we will take care of that. You'll notice we've got a little bit of haloing right here, so let's make sure we get that taken care of as well. No problem. We'll just patch that out. Oops. That works. We also have to take care of the tripod. Okay, so at first glance, that's all that I'm really noticing. Now we're just going to zoom in, and I'm just going to scan at a closer level and just find things that might stand out. Okay, this lens flare has been bothering me for a while, so first let's check and see if we've got a clean. We do. And I'm pretty sure we already have that in here, so now that messed with the color a little bit. Walk that back a little. That's fine if we keep it small like that. Let's merge that down. Okay. All right, what else? So we took care of the flare. Again, the architect said these distractions do not bother him, so I'm going to keep them on. I will take the exit sign out. And I think the easiest way to do this is going to be now the way vanishing point works is it's a little too technical for me to explain, but essentially what you do, find a small area that's on the same plane as the area you're going to be sampling, and then you just expand it with the little knobs, and you can refine it as it grows. So if things don't look like they're aligning, oops, you can use the grid lines. Like for instance, you can see this is kind of going off a little bit, so we're gonna just want to get it as close as possible. It doesn't need to be perfect, but the closer we get, the better the results will be. And I'm just moving this around to make sure that it kind of stays aligned, and it does. So I think we're good to go here. Let's just double check a couple more. Yeah, that all looks good. Now we're going to clone out both this exit sign and this exit sign. So once we have our grid set up, you click the clone tool, and just like in the regular Photoshop, you just clone out. And we'll do that here as well. Let's see, we're pretty close to this light, so let me think about how to tackle this. Yeah, see, that doesn't really work, so we might just need to, I think I might clone this in the regular environment. So let's just hit OK. And I think it might just be easier to, let's try to patch it up first. All right, we'll zoom back in. I think I'll probably clean this up. So as you saw earlier, had we not moved that table where we did and blocked off the majority of that mess, it would have been a lot more difficult to Photoshop out. We also strategically placed this couch so that some of the wall plates are blocked. This one isn't as distracting, this wall plate right here, because it's just in the shadows. Got a little something back there we'll take care of. Yeah, and everything else looks pretty good. Yeah, so I think this is done. I'm just going to go open the people layer right now, and I'm going to zoom in closer to where the people are and just see if there's anything in here we need to adjust. I don't need to scan the whole photo again, just the area where the people are. Oh, we have to turn this on. All right, I think we have what we need. So that said, we've got one last thing that I like to do, and that's just like this finishing processing that I do through Luminar. So we're going to go to Filter, Skylum, and I'm not going to walk through everything that I did to set up this particular filter. Just know that I've got a custom filter that I made for architectural finishing. Pretty much just adds a little bit of pop, a little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation. Nothing too spectacular. It's nothing you can't do in Photoshop. I like the way Skylum processed it, so I just kind of have this one go-to thing. And you saw it didn't really add a significant amount, just a subtle amount of finishing to it. So this is before and after Luminar. So you can see it just adds a little bit of like micro contrast and whatnot. So now since that's all done, we're going to go ahead and flatten this up. We'll make sure that the people look good. So we're going to go ahead and we'll save the non-people version first. Oh, there's one more thing that I forgot to check. Okay, we're good. Save the non-people version first. I'm just going to simply hit save. Don't need this anymore. And then we're going to unflatten, and I'm going to turn the people layer on and save as. And a little tip I learned from Gary Gomez and Fraser Almeida is that you don't need to save this as a PSD. You can save it as a TIFF, and it will retain all the layers and the image quality. So, and it'll bring it back into Lightroom as a TIFF. So I know that may not be a huge deal to you guys, but what I used to do was save this as a PSD. And just save this massive file. And you don't need to do that. Okay, so the people version should be importing. If not, we'll go ahead and... Okay, so too big of a file, so it asks if you want to save it as PSB. We'll say yes. And we'll call it people. Okay, so while that's working, we will start working on the verticals. We'll start with just doing the vertical button and see if that works. And I think that did the trick, just to see what the difference in guided is. All right, so we've got the people layer saved. We're going to go ahead and sync these up. And feels finished to me. The only thing I'm noticing is a little sliver of a table right there, so we're just going to crop in a bit. All right, and we're all finished. So hopefully that was insightful. I didn't really do anything that most people don't know about, but I know a lot of people like to see what went into the edit. Hopefully it wasn't, I mean, it was a long edit, don't get me wrong, but I was also talking a lot. So hopefully you get a good sense of what kind of goes into a lot of these edits. Let me know if you have any questions specifically about anything I covered. If you're interested in watching any more of these types of videos, maybe not quite as long as this one, but smaller, more informative editing type videos, videos on business related stuff that's a little more behind the scenes, I'd highly suggest joining my Patreon. You can just do it for 1 month if you want and kind of browse through what's in there. It's just getting started, so there's not a ton of stuff in there at the time of this recording. So please feel free to just browse through. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next video.